Mishcon Academy Digital Sessions.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mishcon Academy session, a series of events, webinars and podcasts looking at the key issues impacting business and individuals today. My name is Gary Miller, and I'm hosting this hybrid session today. I'm delighted to welcome people to our office. I'm now absolutely thrilled to welcome you, Ruth, and to introduce our guest this afternoon, Ruth Dearnley, who I have had the pleasure of knowing for about 6 months now. And Ruth, what I would like to ask you, what is trafficking? How would you easily and simply convey to our audience, what is it? Is it slavery on its own? Is it abusing somebody's human rights? What is trafficking for the way you see it, so that people can hear from you, what is it that is the problem?
I think from the moment human beings were created, there was something where somebody would usurp power over another so that they lost a sense of who they were, and there was oppression. So it's not new. But the world and its tools and technology has meant that the exploitation of human beings can be done so much better. And so this criminal business of exploiting human beings, which at its worst is when they are then bought, sold, commodities, products, creates and is creating more money, because it's just about a global business where people are dehumanized and used as products in order to create wealth and greed and power. So trafficking, as a definition for me, and I'm not going to use the Palermo's and all the jurisdiction and all the legislation, but it's a road where somebody begins from their vulnerability to begin to be groomed or to be vulnerable. We've all been there. This isn't just something that happens to another person somewhere else. But we know what it is at our most vulnerable to suddenly listen to the wrong person, be moved into the wrong space, be desperate enough to choose something we wouldn't normally. And that is a road that you journey down. And at its worst, it's where you find that you have lost who you are, and that you can be owned and moved and bought and sold and exploited at its worst place. Which I talk about it as a road because you have to think about that when you think about prevention. Because prevention isn't just looking here at the moment when somebody is being exploited. It's about, well, how did they get there? How did they get there? And at what points can we intervene in that journey? How can we shorten the window? How can we make it as narrow as possible for when that exploitation and that road happens? How can we give somebody the information they need? Alternative choice, a community around them, peer support. From the laws that we pass and create, to the systems that we're all part of, right down to the information that that person can get on this in their hand to tell them where the danger are and signpost them to a better place. So for me, it's the picture of how we can stop the exploitation of human beings at every level, which is why none of us can do that. You've asked her a definition. The definition of the solution for me is that's why none of us could do that on our own. You know, you could pass laws. In fact, there are laws in almost all countries that trafficking is illegal. But look, okay, that doesn't mean that the laws are bad. It just means we're not there yet. We need to do more. You know, you can rescue everybody. Imagine if you could just rescue everybody, but that's not enough. The money and the money flows, we need to look and understand, and that's why we were driven to want to build this rich picture, shine this light on how this business works. Let's expose it, because too often it happens in the shadows. It happens where people culturally allow it. And I mean all of us. It's almost like if we don't draw attention to it, then we can just continue in the what we buy or where we put our money or the way we run our business or the way we do our financial transactions or the sorts of bits of law that we'll allow. Or we need to shine a light on all of that. And that's why I think we've called it, this is the drive for transparency. So please be leaders. Use the searchlight to lead and take others into that space. But if you refuse to, you won't be able to hide.
You were either at a party or some other place and someone said, will you join us and help us do whatever it is that they were doing? And they used the word trafficking to you. And was that the first time?
First time.
And what was your immediate reaction?
The real guts in me is always, don't just make a noise, but give people something that they can do. People need to answer 3 questions. What is it? What is trafficking? Because if you don't know what it is, it's useless. How does it affect me? Because unless I know how it affects me, I'm really not going to engage. I might get upset for a while and then I'll move on. Or I'll get overwhelmed for a while and then I'll move on. But how does it affect me? And then what can I do? Because if you can't answer that third one, you shouldn't share anything. Because that's how people become overwhelmed. That's how people become disengaged. You know, there's so much I could try and do in the world and there's so much bad. So, what is it? How does it affect me? What can I do? And that's what we decided to do in our little sort of conversation over 1 or 2 glasses of wine. And then a friend of ours who was listening, who is a fantastic poet, came down the following morning and went, I've got a name. You should call yourselves Stop the Traffic with a K. And we went, ooh, that's good. And so we launched Stop the Traffic.
The visceral reaction would be, trafficking is bad, we must go and help those who've been trafficked. That wasn't what you did. You looked at it from a much wider perspective.
Everyone that I was meeting was at that front face, that cold face, where they were encountering people for whom they needed to find a way out and then follow that road of rehabilitation. And as you said, absolutely essential. We need to think beyond that. How can we dismantle the system? How can we disrupt this system? And even at that early day, my skills or my understanding was, how do we empower a community of people who are never going to feel called to give their lives like these extraordinary people around? I mean, there are millions of extraordinary people who give their lives to go and do the rescue, to be part of that. But how can you actually take this issue to the whole community? How can you take it to a community where there are business leaders, those who work in finance, those in government, those who in their day-to-day jobs make policy? How can you start to take this issue and answer those 3 questions? What is it? How does it affect you in your role, at Mishcon? How can it start to be part of the world and system that you work? And then what can you do about it? So for me, unleashing that sort of tidal wave of ability and skills was about, I can't do all those things, but if we can be the bridge to start to think about converting this complex issue into something where those people can think and be active, then we're really going to become quite dangerous to the issue.
The time has arrived for the Q&As.
I just wanted to ask Ruth how the pandemic has impacted your work and if indeed it has.
In one way, it's actually perpetuated, I think, and pushed us forward. The team were extraordinary, but I also said this is a moment we need to grab, because for the first time ever, the world was actually understanding that data and technology, intelligence and insight was the only way we were really going to understand how to prevent a global issue that we were all a part of. So in a way, it pulled people firmly into our mindset. How to use data, how to use technology, how to build a data hub. Why bother? Why is prevention so important when your focus is often, let's rescue now, let's feel something now, let's do it now? Well, we're all here sitting in this room because people thought preventatively, because they thought, what's the future? How can we get back? How can we stop something happening rather than just reacting? I think the world is learning, and around trafficking, around exploitation, around crime, we have a lot to learn from health, because health has done it a number of times in our world really well. Technology is an incredible gift, almost always used by those who exploit rather than those of us who lead first. Innovation is usually used, sadly, in history for ways of exploiting, destroying. But it is for us to grab it back. And it is for us to take those tools and turn them into tools that are searchlights. Searchlights that say you can't hide, but also spotlights that take us forward so we can see the future early, and so that we can all turn into people who can look at the future and then deliver today.
What are the 3 wishes that this fairy godfather could give you with that magic wand?
I would love to see people grab this sooner than having to be convinced of it. Leaders of today and tomorrow.
What does that mean to them?
So, too much energy for me is spent on trying to convince people that this is the right way to do. We need an urgency. We've got an urgency building around the planet, haven't we? I mean, but it's taken a long while of lots of years around climate, and, this is our home. How long are we going to have it for? There's an urgency about that. Whether we can deliver on it is another question. There's an urgency, everyone, that however long we all live on this planet, the people matter. Urgency for action.
Urgency, which is awareness, is it? Awareness.
And to me, that is leaders, people of all ages, stepping up and saying, this issue matters.
Second wish.
That people would share what they know. That's a revolution. So you know that part of what TRAFFIK Analysis Hub and what we've created is its footprint of what's growing fast. Depends on people sharing. And that means a world that stops thinking in a way that what I have is mine, in my pocket for my next funding or my competitive edge on you. And I don't just mean in not-for-profits, although we need to learn to share and not just talk about it, but it's actually also in every sector. What can you share? And sharing your story, sharing understanding, sharing your resources, sharing time. So a sharing revolution will outsmart everyone.
Number 3, your last wish. What's it going to be?
It's a wish that's already coming true. I have a great joy when I see people, like people on our team, people who have just got ideas I'd never have thought of. They're just running past you.
Inspiring. Is that it?
Inspiring.
Is that inspiring others to move
Seeing others.
further
My wish
forward?
would be just keep going. Go past me.
So if our audience today went away thinking, how can I be more aware? How can they share more? And how can they inspire?
Run faster.
Run faster.
Life's too short.
Do it better.
And do it together.
Ruth, it was an absolute privilege and an honor to have you share your part of your story with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Mishcon Academy Digital Sessions. To access advice for businesses that is regularly updated, please visit mishcon.com.